Thank you for joining us at the Man Up and Own It podcast, where we discuss situations and experiences that men face on a day-to-day basis, and we expose how it is that you can go about living your life to handle those uncomfortable situations in a better and more efficient manner. And I am joined here with one of my best friends, someone that I have seen grow and blossom into a very successful individual and overcome the circumstances that would break most individuals in their life, Sam Strong.
What's happening, brother? Thank you very much for having me here.
Absolutely. We've been talking about doing something like this for how many years now?
I mean, it's getting close to 5 years at least.
It is. That's crazy. And to think that we didn't know each other when we first met. And you actually pulled me up and pulled me out of a very uncomfortable situation that I was in. What people out there don't know is I did my first bodybuilding show at the Jay Cutler Classic in Las Vegas, something that I had inspired to do for a very long time and never had the gumption to go do it until I had a near-death experience with suicide. I wanted to kill myself because I had lost the man that I wanted to be. I looked in the mirror after being in a corporate situation for quite a while. I had lost all my muscle. I had lost all the self-respect. And my wife challenged me to go back to the gym. She challenged me to be the man that our family needed and that I should be. And I took her up on that. I went back and I started to build myself back up again. And then she took me to an Olympia where I realized that I could compete with these guys. And I made a commitment after meeting Jay Cutler to do one of his shows. And I took it upon myself, held myself accountable, and then competed at the show. And when I got off from doing our first pose downs, I was beating myself up so bad. And then you showed up like an angel out of heaven, reassuring me that I did do a good job.
Yep, I'll never forget that day because that was the show that I went to do the same thing that you went to the Olympia to go and do. I wanted to go and check it out and see if that was something that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to go check out like how people pose and how a show is conducted. And I remember sitting in the crowd next to your wife, not knowing at all who she was at the time. And I had my camera out and I was just taking videos and taking pictures and watching you doing your thing up on stage. And I was really impressed. I'm like, look at this dude up here. He's jacked. He's doing all his poses. I remember I could see the nerves. You were shaking quite a bit, but you looked phenomenal. And I was like, man, this is something that I really want to do. And before you had come down from the stage, your wife had asked me, like, hey, did you get any of the pictures of this guy that was on the side? And I started conversing with her. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got a couple pictures. Like, let me get your phone number. I can send them to you. My camera sends them right to my phone. And when we were already, gawking at your performance at that point, like, look at this guy. He's just totally shredded up. Did an amazing job. And, yeah, just like you said, you came down, you sat down next to me, and you're just head in your hands, and you looked so upset. And I was like, dude, what's the matter, bro? You're like, man, I'm just so upset at myself. I think I did a terrible job. I really feel like I could have done so much better. I'm like, dude, from where I was sitting, you look like you did an amazing job. Like I was blown away. I'm very impressed with what I saw. Your whole mood changed immediately in just that moment, from just something as simple as, reassuring somebody that they did a good job. A complete stranger.
Right. Now, how often in life do we be our own worst enemy and our biggest critic?
More often than not. That's usually our chief enemy is, giving up on ourselves.
Absolutely. Now, you eventually actually became a client of mine after that, and that was one of the biggest opportunities that I recognized, and it's the biggest opportunity actually that every one of my clients actually has, is the way that we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that experience that you had when you faced some very difficult circumstances when we were in our coaching phase.
So, when I came on as your client, that was after maybe a year and a half to almost 2 years to us knowing each other. And I had gone through one of the worst relationship breakups that I'd ever gone through. And the way that I recollect is it completely leveled me as a man. It took me down to nothing. And I remember reaching out to you and saying, Chris, like, I need your help, bro. I'm at a really bad spot. I was suicidal myself at that point in time. I wanted to just end it all, give it all up. I didn't know, didn't see the point in pushing through anymore. I thought that everything that I had that was worth a damn other than my son had just exited my life. And that's when you're like, all right, buddy, it's time to return that favor. Remember that compliment you gave me that day? Well, now I'm going to be here for you when you need somebody, when you're really feeling down. And we started what we refer to as the Rebuilding Sam project.
Yes, sir.
And to this day, I couldn't be more grateful for you being a part of my life, brother.
And it's the same. And I think that's what we owe each other as men in our society right now, especially with the way things are, to be a accountability partner, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can remember that there were a lot of difficult situations and conversations that we had that weren't necessarily, oh, Sam, it's going to be okay.
That's right. You certainly didn't sugarcoat everything. I mean, you made sure that you were being a genuine friend by being genuine.
Absolutely.
You were real. You weren't just telling me what I wanted to hear. You were telling me a lot of stuff that I needed to hear. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, that pain needed to happen. You needed to go through that. Sucks that it sucks, buddy, but that had to happen.
Absolutely.
And, that was, again, one of those things that I'm eternally grateful for, that you weren't just trying to butter my biscuits. You're like, dude, I'm actually your friend. I really do care about you. I want to see you recover from this, and the only way it's going to happen is if I'm telling you the truth, telling you what's really going on.
Right.
And telling you how we're going to make it through this, and that's by accepting some hard truths. Mm-hmm. That, there was some accountability that I had to take, that I was responsible for the demise of my relationship. There were things that I could have done a lot better. Mm-hmm. And you didn't just sit there and, be one of the bros, the homies, oh, man, screw that girl, she's a piece of crap. You're like, dude, you made some mistakes, buddy. Yep. And I appreciate that. That's what men do need. They need that accountability.
Well, and you deserve that. And I believe that every man deserves that. And in fact, the ones that don't tell you the truth are actually doing you a disservice. Yep. They don't give a shit about you, in my own personal opinion, because in reality, they're insecure. They're the ones that are facing their own insecurity, and they don't want to hear it back that, oh, fuck, that they could do better, that they're doing stuff that it's messing up.
They just want to feel like the good friend, like, oh, this person likes me because I tell them all the happy things.
Like I describe as the difference between being a good friend and a great friend. Mm-hmm. A good friend is someone that's going to sympathize with you, and maybe he knows what you want to accomplish and he roots you on. But the great friend is the guy that steps in and that holds you accountable to accomplishing those things, holds you accountable to being the man that you aspire to be.
Absolutely.
And I'm proud to say that I have seen you do things that I've dreamed of. Like, you took a very bad situation of having to sleep in a tent, having to learn how to live in the elements, and utilizing that as a skill set that actually is helping men right now do the same thing and establish value in themselves by teaching them basic life skills. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like you said, I ended myself up in a situation where I was homeless. After that relationship ended, I needed, didn't have a place to stay, so I used some of the skills that I had learned when I was younger, my outdoor skills, and I just started, applying them to how I was going to make it through that situation of homelessness. And I took that negative mindset that I was in and started chipping away at that through outdoors and wilderness exposure. I said, screw it. If I'm going to be out here, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm going to go get some alone time out in the woods and really let all those intrusive thoughts sink in and then start to work through them. Mm-hmm. And then once I realized, over the time that we spent working together on the Rebuilding Sam project, that those skills could benefit other people, then I started trying to find a way that, how I could implement that for other people, saying, oh, well, we can use this alone time and the wilderness exposure as a tool. This is a massive benefit. It's not, some people look at that as a detrimental setback. Like, oh, I'm homeless. I'm going to go sleep in a tent. My life sucks. I'm going to start using drugs and alcohol. I had to do the exact opposite.
Right.
I said, all right, well, this is the time I'm going to get sober.
Yep.
I'm going to, again, like I said, let these intrusive thoughts come in, and one at a time, I'm going to start addressing them, rather than trying to, distract myself from this. Nope, this is the time. This is the time where I get to really work on the stuff. Well, as we said, rebuilding. When I was leveled, I got to put the parts back into Sam that I thought were serving me, and I got to find a way to remove the parts that weren't serving me anymore.
Absolutely. So, and it wasn't like you did it alone. And it also isn't like that it just happened in one fell swoop, just like cutting down a tree.
Yep.
It takes multiple attacks. Dink, 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 dink. And even you can't just continue to hit it the same way. You got to go to the other side of it, chip it away, chip it away. And even in the first time you cut the tree down, you find a better way to cut the tree down.
Yeah, you get better and better at it.
Absolutely.
Each attack.
So I believe confidence is created through competency.
Absolutely.
And competency is created through taking action. So the more times that we are willing to take action, the more confidence that we create through the competency of understanding how to take action in a more efficient and proactive way.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So tell me something about you that you would like everyone else out there to know that might empower them to take action into facing a difficult situation in their life.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think was my greatest asset was my ability to accept my shortcomings. I think that, it's wonderful. It's all well and good to focus on what you're good at, to be able to build the confidence in things that you're successful with. But there's a lot more to be gained by being aware of your weaknesses. Like I said, what your shortcomings are. And that was something that I got really in tune with, was knowing where I wasn't doing so good in life and finding ways to give that the attention that it needed.
Okay. I like that. I mean, how uncomfortable was that for you? Like, that was probably one of the most difficult things, to look in the mirror and be like, I fucked up. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Man, one of the bigger things that I had to come to terms with was that at that point in my life, I was a man with very little to no follow through. I would quit every job. I would just quit relationships. I would quit self-improvement patterns. I'd start something and I'd stop. And so I was a man with no follow through, and coming to terms with that and addressing that issue has wildly changed my life. It's been a 180 for me to be a person that now has follow through. I start things and I finish them. I see difficult things through to the end. And I mean, not only is that something that I like to use as an example for other men, but I think it's been a very impactful example for my son.
Oh, absolutely. Would you agree with me that you set the example for your son?
Absolutely.
So the way that I understand things as a father, that the man, in your case, you have a son, you teach him how it is for him to go out and live as a man.
Yeah.
And you also teach him how it is that you treat a woman is how he should treat a woman.
Or just people in general.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that the journey for positive men's mental health, in a lot of cases, starts with a father-son relationship.
Absolutely.
That having that positive relationship and being a positive role model and example is what's going to set that foundational, the footwork, the first steps for my son to be a healthy, well-rounded man with positive mental health.
Now, I'd like to take that a step further, and I would like to suggest that you're also the example for his friends. Because now his friends are seeing, well, this is what a quality man looks like that's outside of my family. Because we need to know that other people love us and can care about us, but what that actually looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you didn't have that example being set for them, they may not have a relationship like you and I have. Because they wouldn't necessarily be as trusting for someone to come in and be like, hey, you could do better with yourself. having that constructive criticism, having that accountability set from someone outside of their father.
Yeah, and it does, like you just said, though, it does come with a level of trust for someone. You know, because I actually just got off the phone with my son before this episode started right now, and my son was having a really hard time at school today, and he was telling my wife that he was having some suicidal thoughts, and part of that was to do with he was being bullied at school. He's got one of the popular kids telling him that everybody hates him and that he should go kill himself. Having somebody that he trusts, having that relationship that I've built with my son, to be able to tell him, that certain influences don't matter. If I didn't have that relationship with him, my words wouldn't have weight.
Absolutely.
Right? I wouldn't be able to tell him that's somebody that their opinion doesn't matter to you.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be valued. As where, like you were saying that between you and I, you could tell me, because I trust you as a friend, that when you were saying something that was negative that I may not have wanted to hear, when you told me, Sam, you can do better, dude. You're not living to your fullest potential right now. Because we have a positive relationship, I trust you. I knew that was coming from a place of love.
Right.
Where there was an opportunity for me to grow and become a better person.
And how was that established?
I mean, between you and I, it was through time and building a relationship. Showing our genuine selves. That's what it was.
Absolutely.
There was no being fake with each other.
And we were taking action towards it. We weren't just sitting around waiting for something else to happen. We were being proactive about establishing the relationships. Now, all too often that I find, like I go to a lot of networking events, and I see a lot of guys, they go there and they want to create a relationship, but what they would rather do is go to what's easy and grab like a bottle of alcohol or a glass of alcohol and create this like persona like I'm cool and lower themselves so they can not have to feel things.
Yeah.
And when you got sober, when you started dealing with those issues, you had to start dealing with yourself, which actually allowed you to be a better version of yourself.
100%. And even recently, I had just given up smoking pot, and that was a big vice of mine that I had held for many years. Even through when you and I first met, that was one of my. I mean, I haven't had a drink in over 8 years, and I quit all the other party stuff when I ended up living in a tent. But recently I had an experience where I had an opportunity to go on a survival television show, and which we could talk a little bit more about. But in relation to that, I had to give that up because it wasn't something I could bring with me on the show.
I remember us talking about that, and that was something that you actually fought with. And I suggested, I was like, now is the perfect time for you to let go of an anchor that is slowing you down.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, I'm proud of you because I understand how difficult that was. I myself have given up smoking, which we shared some pretty crazy moments.
Yeah, bro.
But I've actually found more clarity in my life, giving
Absolutely.
up these vices. In fact, there were situations that I would find, I would create problems to have an excuse to smoke weed, and I was actually setting myself up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah, like that I can totally relate to that. Is finding excuses for me to go and self-medicate because I felt like that was going to be my easy answer to put myself in a better headspace. When again, it goes back to your voice in my head saying you can do better.
Absolutely.
You can do better than this. So when I was faced with that opportunity to clear my head and my ass will follow, it wasn't a comfortable situation because comfort for me was my pacifier, my go-to thing, right? But finding a way to pull that out and then finding new coping mechanisms inside of myself.
Yes.
It was again, it's just more of the same of these best decisions, right? Now that I am able to cope on my own, I don't have to go to that pacifier. I've lifted that fog out of my brain, which helped me even further deal with issues that I had from mental health struggles.
Right.
That I was just clouding. I was fogging over them, and yeah, it was not pleasant at first. Coming to the realizations that I had been suppressing certain feelings and thoughts for that many years. It was overwhelming.
Right.
It was definitely overwhelming at first, but again, a very positive decision.
Right. And it's not like you did it alone. I think that's a misconception that men have is they got to do this alone. Like their identity is wrapped up in this egotistical forum, like, I have to do this, I have to be a soul conqueror, when in reality, nobody has to do it alone. Only if you choose to do it alone.
Yeah, and we're stronger together.
Absolutely. No army is a single army. In fact, if you want to go back to like biblical times, like look at what David did against Goliath. He was only one man, but he had a bunch of people that believed in him.
And that's what it is. That's right. You hit the nail on the head right there. It's the belief in each other. And that's, again, why our friendship has been so successful, is because we are constantly rooting for each other. I am never threatened by your success. I'm always proud of you and wanting to see you just continue to do better and better and better. And I feel the exact same coming from you.
Absolutely.
And that's why, like I said, we're just, iron sharpens iron. We're very successful in our friendship because we push each other.
And we want the best for each other. And I think you hit it you hit the nail right on the head, is you're not envious or intimidated or anything that's negative associated with my success, and vice versa for you. In fact, in a way, I see the opportunity in it. When you succeed, then I got the opportunity to succeed, and vice versa. Like, how many times have I told you, hey, dude, when I take off, you're going right there with me. You better hold on because you're going to lose your britches, because I'm yanking you with me on this journey, on this experience.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want anybody else standing beside me other than the people that are rooting for me and holding me accountable to being the version of myself. Because if I do become successful, I strike that.
When.
Yes. When I become successful, when we have the following, when everything is lined up and things are happening, I want someone that's going to be honest and hold me accountable to being the person that I've always wanted to be.
Yeah, legit.
So how has fitness inspired you or taught you that you can overcome adversity?
Well, I mean, it's one of those. It's one of those things that as you continue to do it, you can see your progress. So that has helped me overcome all kinds of different mental struggles. I mean, like getting to see that when you put in the work, you can physically see the results. That has shown me that there's that you can do the same thing internally. With mental health struggles, and even again talking about how we congratulate each other's success. Having a fitness partner that also does that, like it's not necessarily an ego lifting type of thing, but when we're in the gym, and I see you pushing more weight, that inspires me. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna try harder on my next set.
Right.
And it's not to outdo each other; it's to continue to push each other to rise to your potential.
So one thing that I like to do with my clients, I like to tell them 2 more. And I don't really care, honestly, if they do 2 more. But I know in their mind's shutting down, because it's the job of the mind to protect the body.
Yep.
Because the body will fail, and then the mind is going to die because the mechanism that it's using to survive is now gone. But we can challenge the mind. And if you, like we said before, if we have an established rapport built, that you trust this person, when they suggest, do 2 more, then all of a sudden we've overridden the mind.
Yeah, you're fired up.
And
all right, I'll get 2 more.
2 more.
I'll get 2 more.
And if you do 2 more, guess what I'm going to say? 2 more.
Yeah.
So any of the people out there that are my clients, they actually know that I'm very twisted when it comes to this. And I will actually encourage it, and I will help them do more. And I love seeing them do more, because then I take that opportunity to challenge them. Where else in your life are you giving up early when you could do a little bit more?
Exactly. That's a great analogy, because it does. It translates to so many different things in life. I mean, again, with fitness, it's one of those things that you can physically see the results of. But it does. It translates to other things, like where else are you not giving it all? Are you not giving all of it in your relationship? Could you have given, 2 more minutes into talking with your child, or could you have tried a little bit harder at work? Could you have, not watched the clock so hard and pushed a little bit harder at the project that you were working on?
Right.
Could you have been more successful in other areas?
Yes.
And it does. It translates across the board. So I think that's where it has helped me with different levels of adversity, is that you can see where you can do better in life.
Absolutely. All right, so for the people out there that want to go camping and that have no idea what to eat, What's your like go-to thing when you're eating? And if you say wieners, yeah.
I mean, I have eaten some weird things out on camping trips. In fact, I mean, this is not a go-to thing. This is probably the last thing I would ever recommend to anybody ever on earth. But during my television show experience for my survival show that I was on, I was actually the first person on the show ever to eat a leech.
A leech?
A leech.
Like the thing that sucks blood from your body?
Yeah, buddy. I was swimming around in this pond trying to clean myself off, and I came out and there were leeches stuck all over me, and I had gone several days without anything to eat. And that was probably the most disturbing thing I've ever picked up on a fire and eaten.
So interesting. How did you feel after you ate the leech?
I mean, it was surprising because they say that hunger is the best spice.
It is. Well, it's like sheer desperation, right?
Yeah.
So, like when I meet somebody and they're talking about wanting to lose weight or to fix their image or build more confidence, and I give them my plan, I tell them what we can do, and then they have a hesitation, my response to them is, maybe you just haven't suffered enough yet.
Yeah, maybe you don't want it bad enough.
And so that's a very interesting point to the leech. And I believe that people out there need to embrace their suffering and understand it so that they can get more out of their life. Now, Sam, how can people get a hold of you? And so if they want to learn how they can survive better, and maybe they connect with your story and they want some inspiration or some motivation, or just like want to be your fan, how do they get a hold of you?
So you can find me on Instagram, and I'm working under two handles. My main account is the Bushcraft Bodybuilder, and then my men's mental health account is Raw Mental Health. And you can find me on either one. If you're really just into the mental health aspect, then Raw Mental Health is where you should look me up at. But if you want to learn about fitness-related stuff or camping, bushcraft, that type of thing, the Bushcraft Bodybuilder.
All right. He's also got a YouTube channel. And in the future, you're going to see he and I putting some crazy events together. So if you want to take advantage of this and you want to get to know Sam a little bit better, I suggest going and checking him out. And if you like this podcast and you want to be a better version of yourself, you want to be a man that can handle the difficulties in life and no longer be dealing with insecurities that make you respond in a way that you're not proud of, send me a DM. Go to fitanddapper.com and send me a message. And I'm proud to be your host. I am proud to be your friend. We've done a lot of amazing things. And this is the Man Up and Own It podcast, where we face difficult situations and we get uncomfortable together in order for other men out there to know that they can also make a change in their life. Be sure to check us out on our next episode of the Man Up and Own It podcast.